and we did have a closed meeting and declared at 4 o'clock this afternoon to deal under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, and it was to deal with property. And I would ask everyone now to have a moment of silence, and then please rise for the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From
Right. Land acknowledgement was done earlier at earlier meetings. And so I'll go right to disclosures. Members of council, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda is presented to you. Hearing none, I will have that duly reflected. We have the minutes, members of council, regular council meeting, July 26th, and the special council meeting, July 26, 2022, council vacancy appointment. Could I have a motion on those minutes? Deputy Mayor Rebate, Councillor Houston. Any errors or omission on those minutes is presented? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Supplementary agenda. We do have an item. Councillor Antonio moves. Councillor Houston, support. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Before we get into delegations to the members of the audience and others, gives me a great pleasure to introduce our newly minted councillor, Doug Petrie, who is gracefully, gave us his time for the next few months to help fill the seat that our delegation is Councillor Dowie. Former Councillor Dowie, now MPP Dowie, vacated. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us and administration. I want to thank you, Councillor Petrie, for putting your name forward and to help fill that seat until October 20, well, it'll be November 14th. All right, with that, we'll go to delegations, and it gives me certainly great pleasure and for all of us around the horseshoe here to take this opportunity to welcome MPP Andrew Dowie and to the meeting today. So I'm going to get Andrew, I'm going to sign up. But before we do that, Councillor Dowie, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us. Again, congratulations on a tremendous campaign that you ran here in Windsor Tecumseh. Your victory obviously was certainly not a surprise to all of us, because we knew in our hearts the amount of work that you were prepared to put into this venture was certainly, I think the results tell itself. your victory here in Tecumseh. And we, as a council and administration, very proud of one of our own who's now representing us in the legislature. So welcome this evening, MPP Dowie. And so now I will give you the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor McNamara, and say that it's certainly a distinct privilege to be here. I know my departure was a bit abrupt. I'd asked for the leave to continue with the campaign, and you know what? I wanted to put my heart and soul into it, and sure enough, now for the first time since 1929, we have a PC member representing the town of Tecumseh. I think it was Colonel Paul Pueso who was that most recent one. And this is a refrain I hear quite often since I've been here. They're just so happy that that we're there, that we're part of the government, because we didn't really get heard in the development of policy to the same extent. And that they always tell me how happy they are that the people of Tecumseh and the people of Windsor, said, you know what, we want to give this a try to contribute to the government, and lo and behold, I mean, I've received some wonderful assignments since I've begun in the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. And just this morning we met on some of those assignments, and it's going to bring me back to the region quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to that, because if there's nothing else I love more than being able to serve and help people out, it's actually being home. So looking forward to seeing everyone often in the next number of years, and to help out wherever I can. And on that front, I know it's a sort of a belated announcement, but I was delighted to see the Reconnect Ontario grant finally come through for the Tecumseh 100th anniversary celebrations. So that was $42,117. So we didn't quite get it in time for the opening ceremonies and the event itself, but finally it did make its way through the bureaucracy. So I'm very happy that that the government saw fit to make that investment in such a wonderful celebration of our community. But I do want to say to all members of council, I say thank you so much for being my colleague, my friend, and for your continued service to the people of Tecumseh. And we have a great community that so I'm proud to live in, and I think you ask most residents of Tecumseh that pride shines through. They really want to be a part of our community. Many would love to live in our community, and they do not have the housing that they're looking for, so they can't make it work, but those days will ideally come true in the next little bit. And I can tell you, being a counselor for almost 8 years was certainly the most rewarding experience I've had in my community involvement, and to be able to be part of the solution to move our community forward has just been phenomenal. It was experience I thought it would be, and then some. And so I certainly want to thank you all for giving me such a wonderful experience, and really I'd say my predecessors too. All have been all that I've run into have been very gracious, particularly my Rita Ossington, who joined with me in Ward 1, and my predecessor Marcel Patoulet, who served with tremendous distinction for many years in our community. So. But particularly, I do want to mention you, Mayor McNamara. I'm so proud to finally get my swearing in, and I timed it for my dad's birthday, July 8th. I would have loved for him to have seen it, but you were gracious to come up to Queen's Park and to be a part of it. So I'm glad to see my constituent assistant Rachel, who actually. Many of you may remember Rachel from the Tecumseh Youth Advisory Committee. She was able to deliver it to town council, or town hall rather, today. So I hope small gesture of my appreciation, Mayor McNamara. I really appreciate that you came up to support my swearing in, and I couldn't be more thankful. Thank you. You took a lot of time and effort to do that, And you also really, from the moment I declared my candidacy for MPP and all throughout, you were so supportive, with, certainly a lot of pressures and a lot of headwinds. But you stared them down, and you always showed me a great deal of support. I'm never forgetting that. And certainly I want to make sure that you are involved in all necessary files going forward. I'm working hard to make sure Tecumseh is part of the map. It's not just Windsor, but this is Windsor-Tecumseh, and we are a vital part of this riding. And ultimately, Windsor and Essex County are a region, but we certainly have it's a region, but there are distinct administrative parts to them. So that's my task at hand. To make sure that we know we have a better understanding of the provincial government, how we operate down our way, and we'll get there. But we haven't had that voice for a while right in the government, so it's going to take some work on my part. But with that, I also want to pay a special tribute to Councillor Houston. He spent long hours with me throughout the campaign as well, just door knocking, doing get out the vote, and really coming through. And Councillor Bichetti came out. Councillor Tonio came out. Did I say Councillor Bichetti? I meant Deputy Mayor Bichetti. Actually everyone in their own way around the council table really, put in some great words for me. And really supported me. And I can't tell you how thankful I am that I was part of Team Tecumseh, and that we are all a team, and we're all just that everyone came through. Didn't matter what your allegiance was. So I'll never forget that. And I'm at your service. If you think that I can be of help, I want to be there to be that help and make sure I fight tooth and nail for our community. I remain a resident of Tecumseh, and I want what's best for it. So just keep that in mind. I will be certainly back Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So I'm not disappearing or going anywhere. I'm here during the week in Toronto from Monday to Thursday, but I'm coming home as soon as the legislative business is done. And I do want to say too to the residents of Tecumseh, thank you very, very much for the privilege to be able to serve. First off, we were with your support in 2014, and that was as a nobody, so to speak. I showed up at your door. I was very young, and many challenged. Say, do you have the experience to be an effective counselor? And sure enough, so many of you put your faith in me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I did my utmost to be accessible, accountable, and to ensure you received answers as constituents. And I'd like to think that you can still trust me to do that. I do have some help now as a full-time member, but sure, lo and behold, I am realizing that the volume of requests to me is sort of a different scale of what I had as a counselor. So I do appreciate that help that the legislature provides to me. And I may not be as quick on the draw to get back sometimes, because I do my best to respond to most emails myself. So it's an authentic answer, but that does sometimes take me a couple of days. But with that, I'm at your service as the people of Tecumseh. And I want to thank you for your overwhelming support in the election, looking at the results, and certainly over 50% of the community backed me, and that's something I won't forget, that depth of support, given that there are 10 candidates in this race, and so that's phenomenal. And I'll say I just didn't foresee this path, becoming an MPP, but it was really my time on town council that really cemented in how important it was that we have a voice that would be heard. We've seen it with regional acute care hospital, economic development, investment, even for our well-being, our sports facilities, and the opportunities for recreational investment. So we do we do have a lot of things we want to get implemented, and so I thought being part of the government was one of the best possible ways that we can ensure our voice was heard, and that we had every opportunity to make the case that our investments were worthwhile for the people of our community. So that's I'm looking forward to it. I just have a smile on my face every day up here, and say the government of Ontario, particularly Premier Doug Ford, he reminds me every single caucus meeting, how happy he is that our community saw fit to send me to office, and that he certainly wants to make sure that we know that we're a key part of the provincial government. So I did also want to say to all the staff, past and present, what an honor and privilege it was to serve with you, and to receive your wise counsel over the years, and for all the work that you've done to help make our job as elected officials just that much more easier. In many cases, I've had the opportunity just to kind of see different kinds of government over my time, and often we have policy, policy that is black and white, and then we have how to use the policy to achieve the kinds of goals that are for the benefit of the community. And so I found the staff, every staff that I dealt with at the town of Tecumseh who are serving around the table today, really did their heart or put their heart and soul rather into making sure our constituents were well served. And I know it's sometimes where I feel awful every time I see some degree of frustration. If we go to school, if we get 96% on a test, it's considered good. If we get 96% of the job done right, and there might be 4% that didn't work out so well, to me that's still a really great track record. The 4% is like, that's just usually it's Mother Nature or something that we have no control over. So to me, the staff have been phenomenal. I so enjoyed working with all of the staff. I'm looking forward to being a resource and an ally for the next 4 years for our staff. So certainly let me know if I can be of help. I've certainly extended that to the city of Windsor as well. I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have come here today to present to you. I wish I would have been in person. Just the calendar keeps on changing for me. I'm probably gonna have to buy the refillable calendar because I'm crumpling up some of the inserts and starting from scratch, because I've come to learn that the day will not end the way you thought it was going to. And that's really been the case. The staff have been phenomenal in trying to get me scheduled for a time that I could be in person. But unfortunately on my end, I couldn't deliver that. So, but I want to give thanks, especially to Marg and Jennifer for trying to work with me to get a good date. And this is my fault that it's virtual. I look upon my time fondly. Municipal is a great level of government. I am looking forward to seeing everybody at AMO, including I'm going to be there to support our municipal delegations at AMO. I definitely want to continue to be Team Tecumseh and offer all that support that I can to ensure that we have the best possible shot at investment and implementation of our community's goals. So anyway, I'll cut it off there. People don't want to hear me blab all night. So, but I say thank you so much for the tremendous opportunity I've had to be a part of Town Council, and to Doug, Councillor Petrie. I'm looking forward to seeing your fine work in action for the next couple of months. You served with tremendous distinction as our fire chief, and I couldn't be happier to see you take the role on until the municipal election. So with that, I will end here, but thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. It's been You know, it's been a pleasure for all of us around the table working with you close to 8 years. But prior to that, under Committee of Adjustment as well, another 6 years, I believe it was. So, or 14 or 16 years. So you've been part of this family. Yeah. Well, there you go. Been part of this family, and we certainly want to take this opportunity to thank you for all of your years service here at the lower level, and or the third order of government. And now it's like almost you moved up to from I get A ball to double A, and then there's triple A, and so we are looking forward to working closely with you on obviously some of the issues you alluded to. And the big one for us here as well is the housing file. And, that's something that I think, we need a great partnership, or great partner with the provincial government. And a lot of the initiatives and policy development at the provincial level is certainly put housing and the reduction of homelessness as one of the top items on the docket for the provincial government. But it's also for us here in Tecumseh and certainly surrounding areas. Looking forward to the AMO. I know there's all of us. We're looking forward to seeing you there and seeing you in action, and having you introduce us to some of your new members of your caucus, and again, advancing some of the needs of our community. I think you're well versed, and that's the exciting part for all of us around the horseshoe here, is that you're well aware in terms of our strategic plan, in particular for the 18 to 22. You were part of it, and so you understand, and right from the grassroots what what the needs and heartbeat of our community is certainly all about. So I mean, we're still a buzz in the area by having a member representing us at Queen's Park. I think it's critical. At the end of the day, you need to be at the banquet table if you're going to get your just desserts, and here we are. Looking forward to a great relationship, and as our mandate closes shortly and a new one starting, and almost in step with the provincial government. And so we're looking forward to working hand in glove with you and your colleagues in advancing the greater good of our great community here in Tecumseh. Also, I'll open it up to my colleagues around the table, but we do have some gifts for you to enhance your offices, both at Queen's Park and here, and to showcase some of a little bit of Tecumseh. And so obviously the door is always open. We're waiting, until you get back, and we'll have an opportunity to meet face to face, and then give you the proper send off and appropriate gifts at that given time. So with that, I'll pass it down and have our Deputy Mayor give you greetings as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, MPP Andrew Dowie. Congratulations formally here. I know it's virtual, but I'm sure your travels will take you back here, and we'll be able to meet in person. But like you said, some of us will be coming up to AMO, and we do hope and plan to meet with yourself and your colleagues there, and again, network, so that Windsor, Essex is not forgotten any longer, that we are on the map for the provincial government. And on my behalf, I want to thank you, and also your campaign manager, Mr. Sinnott, and all your team volunteers. They were excellent throughout the campaign, very professional, and like I say, a top-notch run campaign, like the mayor alluded to earlier. And we couldn't be more proud to have you take the reins at the provincial level, and wish you all the best. And we know you'll do great things for us. So thank you again, Mr. Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. And to you, MPP Dowie, it was a pleasure to work with you and be a colleague over the last 8 years. You know, wish you all the best. And I know this was something that you've had your eye on for a very, very long time. I couldn't be happier for you. I'll echo the mayor's comments. You had a fantastic campaign team, and it was a pleasure to, you know, go out and be part of it there with you. So, you know, I wish you all the best. And it's great to know that we have such an ally, you know, up there in Toronto fighting for Tecumseh, for Windsor Tecumseh, and the entire region. So thank you, and, you know, wish you all the best over the next 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Congratulations, Andrew. I too just want to congratulate Mary and all of your family. What a great effort and job everyone did collaboratively to help you get to where you are. But honestly, when you say to serve, you've called me in the last couple of weeks to just convey a constituents issue, and you found the time to reach out to me and help me with that. So I do appreciate everything that you've done and everything that you're going to continue to do. Congratulations.
Councilor Tonio.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Andrew, MPP Andrew Dowie, great job. First of all, as a municipal councillor, you served this community with your heart, and it showed everywhere. And I am confident and positive that you are going to do that as an MPP, taking care of this community with your heart and your great mind that you have. So great job in the past, and in the future, I know you're going to serve us well. Thank you for everything you've done.
Councilor Peacher.
MPP Dowie, 4 weeks ago, you and I spoke, and you gave me some good advice on Ward 1. And for such a young person, you set that bar high on how you delivered service to Ward 1. And I hope I can match that for the next 3.5 months. The people of Ward 1 deserve it, and they've become accustomed to it, and I'll do my best to continue that. Thank you.
Councilor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, MPP Dowie, it's quite an honor to use that title for you, and also it was an honor to work with you for the past 6 years. My congratulations, you know, certainly to you, but also to your family and in your entire campaign team. I know there's a big army you had, and congratulations, because you've achieved something that hasn't been achieved for many decades. And, you know, congratulations to you. As I told you when you were campaigning, I really believe you have all the ingredients for the role that you've achieved. You're very resident focused, and you also have, you know, that keen engineering sense and abilities that will help you in problem solving. So I'm quite sure, you know, the residents of Windsor Tecumseh have selected a great representative, and I'm sure you're going to make some significant impacts over these next 4 years. And we look forward to working with you on that. Congratulations again, MPP Dowie, and once again, very much an honor, and thank you.
Madam CAO.
Hello, Andrew. So nice to see you. And it's been a pleasure to be in touch with you in your official capacity, business with respect to the town, and have found you very receptive so far. So that's an awesome sign for things to come. And don't worry, we will take you up on your invitation to ask for your assistance. If you want to get an idea of just how much, you could call your counterpart MP Eirik Kazmierski. We're a frequent flyer with his parliamentary assistant, and he's been very receptive as well. So thank you for the invitation. It's been an honor to serve you as a councillor, and we look forward to, as an administration, supporting you in your role best we can on anything Tecumseh related in your new capacity. Thank you.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
MPP Dowie, I just wanted to congratulate you on your new appointment. I know the staff here, as well as myself. We know that we are in good hands with you up there, and supporting us and Team Tecumseh, and know that we are here as well. If you need anything from us, you have our numbers. Congratulations.
All right, and once again, MPP Dowie, thank you. And thank you for taking the time out this evening and spend a few moments with us. And we're going to see you shortly come the weekend. I know I'm going to be up in the Ottawa area on Friday night, and I got meetings with the Western Wardens and AMO on the weekend, but we're certainly going to get together as a team and start laying out the groundwork. And what I'm really looking forward to is the Bear Pit session with all the new members. And who knows, you know, if Minister Fideli, if for some reason is not there, you might be sitting in that seat. So we promise we'll be gentle, because I think the honeymoon's still on.
Well, one thing I'll add, if anyone really wants to see the first instance of actually Thursday is my day. If anyone wants to watch the parliamentary channel, my house duties on Thursday, and I understand I have both my first speech, but not my inaugural speech, and which is something different, and then a question too. So I don't know if I'll be in the Bear Pit, but we'll you know what, I have to be ready for it. I do have the briefing notes in case that should come to fruition.
Well, we're looking forward to it. So anyway, we'll try to get tuned in and see your speech on Thursday. So with that, once again, thank you for spending some time with us, and we're looking forward to really expanding our relationship now with obviously the Ford government, and in particular with our local MPP right here in Windsor-Tecumseh. So with that, Andrew, thank you once again, and congratulations to you, Mary, your whole family. You know, you can see the excitement in all of them. And so now it's time we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll get things done.
Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great rest of the council meeting.
Thank you. Okay, members, we're going to move on to communications. We have 3 items. 1 to 3, if I could have a motion on communications. Moved by Councillor Tonio, Councillor Houston, support. All in favor? Oppose? It's carried. Anything out of those 3 items that you would like to bring forward? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you to, I guess, administration regarding item number 1 in the open house on the greenhouse study. I believe it was 2021 when we had actually updated our greenhouse, you know, restrictions. And I'm just wondering of our plans, are we planning to attend, planning to submit anything with regards to Lakeshore's greenhouse study?
Okay. I'll call upon Mr. Hillman. There he is.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor. We have only just begun reviewing the document. We certainly are interested in what they're proposing. From our preliminary review, they don't have any impact on the policy framework that the town of Tecumseh has put in place. But we'll certainly monitor the plan and ensure that, you know, a number of issues come to mind given the geography of our municipality, and it's adjacent to the municipality of Lakeshore, and the potential for things to happen on the other side of the road. So we'll certainly monitor things because there is the potential for some impacts from these types of developments. But it would appear that what is attempted in the study is to take into account the lessons learned through the last number of years in the areas of the county where this type of development has really taken off, and to apply some of those lessons in terms of sound regulations. So I guess the short version of the answer is we will monitor the process of the study, and if anything significant comes back in terms of a concern, we'll certainly advise council and proceed on that basis.
Anything further? Then we'll move on to reports. And our first report this evening is from our Chief Administrative Officer, Ms. Mizek, on the people and culture. And so first is there's 3 reports, and first is on the strategic priorities report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There we go. I've got to get attachment 1 up. That's perfect. So annually, we report out on Council's strategic priorities from the strategic plan. And this strategic plan, as you alluded to earlier, Mr. Mayor, is the one that's in effect from 2018 to 2022. So each year we do an annual report out. This year we've elected to do it in brochure style. And it's actually a double gate fold. So it will be adapted to web presence a little bit more fluidly, but it does report out on all of the strategic priorities, starting with smart growth. If you can go to the next page, please. And then over to community health and wellness, infrastructure. Then we have continuous improvement and leadership and good governance. So recognizing a lot of our accomplishments over the 2021 year, some of it dealing with flooding, some of it dealing with obviously our emergency services, our recreational services, getting back into swing as the pandemic came a bit better under control. A little update there on flooding, noting that the waters have dropped and we had a commensurate reduction in the number of days that we were subject to flood warnings and flood watches. A little bit of an update there on our ability to deliver services online, which took a big jump forward during the pandemic. So lots of opportunities there to service the community through an online venue. And that also is reflected in the technology and communication statistics there in the bottom right-hand corner. Also recognizing that we were able to award all of the citizen awards for 2021. And so while it's a bit small to see there, all of the recipients are named on the brochure as well. Sorry, if you could go back up to the front page, please. We also commented on our success with grant programs. They're over in the left-hand panel, some ongoing studies, some that have been completed, council communications, and featured some photographs from the area, and of course, the new building construction. So that will be made, as I said, made available on the website, and we will also have a select number of hard copies printed out so that it's there for accountability on the part of council and administration for our continued progress and the strategic plan and the strategic priorities of council. So we're happy to release that this evening for you to receive and to promote the good work of the municipality. Thank you.
All right, questions, comments, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Honor. A question to our CAO. In terms of, seeing this for most residents, even online, a lot of great information. It's something that someone would sit down and actually hold and read, just like you would with, the Guinness Book World of Records. There's a lot of data in here and a lot of interesting facts. I'm wondering, I know we posted on the website, but having something like this mailed out with, I don't know if we still do the taxes where you can insert it and save on postage. If it could be mailed out, I know it's a strategic, report like this is once a year. If there's any way we can mail it out, what kind of cost would that be? Because there's a lot of work, the administration, that the town provides and all this information. I'd love to see it. Just a question if it's feasible. If this is feasible or not.
Through the mayor to the deputy, we have not budgeted for, as in previous years. We did not, provide this as a household mailer. So we don't have budget for that. We do, usually deliver these electronically, and there will be a bit of a campaign to make it known through our social media channels that the material is available online. The other beauty of going online is that they can then see the report outs for the prior years as well, and sort of keep a running tally. This is definitely a catchier format relative to the booklet format. I think it does have it does pop and delivers a lot of information concisely, so people will have the opportunity to read it and you know, take it in a fairly short period of time and get the full impact. And if I could, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to thank my small but mighty team that helped pull this thing together, spearheaded by Christina, who was my right hand on that, and of course Ellen, and then drawing on the whole senior management team and their staffs to provide the statistics and the data that made this a success. And then of course the graphic art company that put it all together and went through our seemingly endless iterations of getting it right. And here it is for you today. So to that end, I think it will be largely promoted electronically.
Okay, very good. And again, I still stress, I'm still one of those that believe that, you know, people should be answering the phone, that we're still small, that, and again, I don't know if taxes, that's why I asked the question, if we did have general mailing out of taxes, I know other municipalities do, maybe some, if you're through the bank, you no longer get the actual tax bill, but if we do send the tax bill out, whatever it is, inserting this would, to me, would go a long ways, but thank you again for all the work. Excellent.
Thank you. And we've missed the tax mailing for the current year. So we were not able to complete this this in time, but thank you. We appreciate your kind words.
Could we, you know, and a lot of our business part, like the BIA, I'm thinking the Canadian Association of Mold Makers are based here. Some of our business partners in that, if we could, you know, just through an email to them or just to show them, and you know, because it is strategic plan, but it's really a great success story in terms of you know, how we spend our dollars and so forth. But just to get a little bit more through, well, I mean, use the electronic medium, but certainly to a lot of our partners out there.
Absolutely.
Essex Power is a good example, all of them.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we do have a small budget for copies, so we will have some copies professionally done. And we did, as last year, sent a number of them direct mail to those business partners within the community. And then, of course, there will be a quantity here for, you know, to be distributed to you know, in the lobby or through other means. So that they are available if somebody did want a paper copy, it would be available. So it's not like we're not printing any of them, but we just couldn't do a whole full household mailing. Yes.
And obviously to our reps on BIA, it's a good communication tool as well. And, you know, let them know exactly what's happening certainly in the town. Because boy, you know, when you do these meeting, we have our meetings, but you know, 365 days in a year, then you come to realize the amount of work that's been actually done, you know, and this is a great segue as well, you know, for a lot of our staff who obviously those who put this thing together have seen the amount of work that's there, but there's a little bit of everybody that's in that piece. So I'm thinking like Christmas party. We used to do that. If you recall, remember, we used to run that running, you know, this is what we've done in the past year. And that, so great opportunity to, you know, to showcase exactly, you know, what we're doing with our tax dollars and to benefit from that.
And you're, sorry, this is fresh. We only received the final this afternoon. And so the very first audience that it'll be shared with widely is Team Tecumseh tomorrow, for sure.
Excellent. I certainly want to congratulate everyone involved. I think it's well done. But I know even though there's a lot of information in there, there's still a lot more, that's behind the scenes. So anyway, congratulations to everyone. And at the end of the day, congratulations to my members across the Horseshoe, because a lot of that is through a lot of work in developing the strategic plan. And as we say, we push each other, to make sure that things are being delivered. So congratulations to everyone.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. We could not do what we do without the support of council.
Yeah, a motion to receive receive, adopt, and promote the report. Councillor Petrie and Councillor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And then we'll move on to flexible work arrangement policy. And I believe our Director of Culture and People will bring this report forward. There, Ms. Benici.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The flexible work arrangements policy is an effort to support staff in maintaining healthy work-life integration. Administration has contemplated a variety of options to allow for more flexible work arrangements. And as part of the People and Culture Plan, new ways of working are being considered that contribute to a changed work culture, considering how and where our employees are most productive and the town's evolving business needs as well. Administration also understands the importance of keeping up with employment trends to attract and retain the best candidates, so we're able to continue to deliver superior public service to our residents. Flexible work arrangements being proposed as part of the policy include flex time options, which allow for the alteration of start and end times of the workday, and working from home options, which allow for employees to work remotely from their place of residence. Currently, the options for flexible work arrangements are provided to all management and non-union administrative employees, and not every flexible option will work for every employee or for every department, and therefore all flexible scenarios will be assessed considering roles and responsibilities, work exigencies, and an assessment of the job function as well. So in conclusion, administration is recommending that the flexible work arrangements policy be approved, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, to Ms. Benici, just wanted to check. I noticed under financial implications, there was a note of potential additional technology requirements. But what about, the opportunity for potentially a reduction in costs that the town may, potentially enjoy as a result of, permitting people to work from home? There's obviously some benefits to that. Has any thoughts been brought to that point?
Yes,
thank you.
Certainly. And there are opportunities, and it varies in each of the departments. So there are opportunities for savings with respect to that in terms of sharing, but also there may be other areas which would require additional equipment because you need to set up the technology at home in order to be able to do that. So it varies in different departments as required.
Supplementary?
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. And through you, just as a quick follow-up, the only thing I would ask then is if we could just kind of keep good notes as we, implement this policy and kind of start working through it, just, see what observations we come. I mean, this is a bit of an experiment, if you will. We may see the additional cost, but we may see also some, benefits on savings. And I think if we can be aware of those opportunities and potentially exploit them, or maybe they may be a catalyst for other savings in the future, which could benefit the town and ultimately our residents, would be good observations to make. So if we could do that, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely do that. Through the evaluation process, each of these scenarios would require an evaluation to determine whether or not it's feasible, and that can be done certainly from that perspective as well.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Question, Ms. Bonici. I know at the school board, they do offer hybrid teaching during the COVID. Some teachers were unable to work at the school site due to medical reasons, and they were approved to work from home, but there were certain stipulations that they had to have workable Wi-Fi, that they had to have that in their home. So in terms of significant cost, I hope we're not looking at providing Wi-Fi costs or those type of fees. Are we looking at providing a camera? But you know, what technology is expected of the worker that is approved to work from home? I think there's got to be some, you know, clear set rules or expectations of what the employee needs to have in terms of infrastructure at home, and in particular, you know, high-speed internet.
Yes, and those provisions would be clearly outlined. We wouldn't provide anything that we wouldn't already provide if they were actually working at the town offices. So there would be no additional pieces that we would provide, like paying for Wi-Fi. That would be something that they would have to ensure they have in order to be able to do that. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? So then the motion to adopt the report as presented and policy. Councillor Houston moves, and support Councillor Petrie on that. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is the CAO, PC 2022-06, December holiday schedule 2023. Wow. Really?
Yes, so in prior years, Council has authorized the closing of the Tecumseh Town Hall offices from Christmas Eve through to and including New Year's Day, subject to staff utilization of vacation and banked overtime, float, or unpaid leave days. So Article 1204 of the collective agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Tecumseh and QP 702.2 states that if the corporation intends to shut down its operations between Christmas and New Year's, it shall advise the employees in the union before May 1st of each year. In addition, approval of the 2023 December holiday schedule and the town hall closure is being requested at this time to permit the 2023 Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority collection calendar to include all holidays and the dates on which the town hall is closed, which is why we bring this so early on to council for approval. So it is being proposed that town hall close during the Christmas holiday season in 2023 from Monday, December 25th, 2023 to Monday, January 1st, 2024. And this will require staff to utilize one vacation or banked overtime, float, or unpaid leave for this period of time. So it should also be noted that closing town hall during the Christmas and holiday season is appreciated by staff, and also that advance notice of town hall closure during the December holiday season is given to the public through advertisements in the local newspaper, posted on the town's website, and through social media, and at each of the town hall entrances, as well as the EWSWA collection calendar. So in conclusion, it's being recommended that the report entitled December Holiday Schedule 2023 be received, and that the Tecumseh Town Hall offices be closed for the 2023 December holiday season from Sunday, December 24th, 2023 through to and including Monday, January 1st, 2024. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on the schedule? Okay, motion moved by, oh, go ahead, question.
Thank you, Worship. Just a minor typo, I believe, on page 34 of the report within the agenda, at least the PDF version I have. Second last bullet point notes New Year's Eve holiday, which falls on Sunday, being observed on Friday, December 29th, 2022. I believe it means 2023, which is just a minor little fix, but I was looking through those dates and saying, hang on, that doesn't make sense.
Correct.
But just a minor typo, but if that's corrected, I'm more than fine to move it.
Okay, thank you. On the report, move the report, Councillor Altenhoff as amended, and Councillor Tonio support. Question, no questions or comments, all in favor, opposed, that is carried, thank you. Okay, development services are DS 2022-35 development charges bylaw update results from a public meeting and final recommendation. And also upon that report, I'd like to also pull forward to follow as a 2AA the financial services report 2022-04 development charge interest rate policy, which kind of coincides with that report. So if I can have that motion to move that report forward with the other. Yes, Councillor Houston and Councillor Jobin support. All in favor? Oppose if any, that's carried. And then I'll go back to development services on the development charges bylaw update. So I believe Mr. Hillman, you're going to bring that forward.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will. I'll do that right now. And so we do have a report that summarizes the work that's been undertaken over the last roughly 6 months. And council will recall that the services of Watson and Associates was retained. Daryl Labs is here. He was the lead participant with Watson Associates on putting this work together along with the town administration. And these changes to the development charges bylaw for the municipality are really a function of a number of pieces of legislation that were amended by the province over a number of years since about 2019. And they all had fine nuances that impacted our development charges, and it was timely that we did an update study. I will remind council that there still is a requirement for a 5-year review. Our last bylaw was adopted in 2019, so we'll be looking at a review under a full spectrum of issues in a few years from now, so to meet that requirements. But notwithstanding, here we are with an update that's required by legislation. A public meeting was held on June 28th, 2022, in accordance with the Development Charges Act to seek input. And the purpose of this report really is to summarize the input that was provided and to make a recommendation to council in terms of the changes that are proposed. So at that meeting, Watson Associates did provide a summary for at a high level, sort of the purpose of the meeting, what the DC update was attempting to do, policies and charge changes, and the timelines, and so on. There were no written or verbal comments that were provided at that public meeting, and nothing arrived subsequent to the meeting as well, Mr. Mayor. So a summary of the revisions were provided in the prior report that went to council. That's noted on page 3 of this report, and it was received by council at the June 28th public council meeting. The results of all the changes were that there was a slight increase to the development charge rates. And if we go to attachment 1, please, I'll just review very quickly the slight increase that results from the changes to our residential and our non-residential development charge rates.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, that's it'll take me a while to explain this. There we go. Not quite as presentable.
Not as glossy as the other one, but it'll do.
Where's Ellen when I need her? So if we could just can you see the bottom of the image there we go. Okay, so just very quickly for the benefit of Mayor and Council and those watching. So under the existing DC rate for a single unit dwelling, that's the 19,300. and $8. And if we go down to the proposed DC rate, you'll see it goes up to $20,688. So a slight increase. And just to look at the non-residential, it's $742 a square foot right now. And under the proposed DC rate with this update, it would be $7.89 a square foot. That still puts us in the range of sort of in the middle of what are various development charges throughout our region. But the background study went into detail on exactly where we were placed on that. In terms of financial implications, one of the major changes that drove that was that the province took out the 10% mandatory reduction that we used to have to apply against indoor and outdoor recreation services, library services, and administrative studies that were growth related. So that 10% gap will no longer come off the levy. It will come off of the DC when it is paid at the time of a permit. And there were some refinements to some of the eligible projects that are included in our DC study that had the net effect of a slight increase that we've just reviewed. Now, the caveat to all of that is, although we had a slight increase due to the legislation and some refinements, the province also said that for ARUs, which, and this report refers to them as ADUs because the Development Charges Act uses a different term, that's an additional dwelling unit or an additional residential unit. We were just speaking to those at a public meetings earlier this evening. The province has decided through legislation that those, although they're growth and they provide for housing, they are not, they are mandatory exemption from a DC charge. So some of the growth pressures that we might receive through that type of development would no longer be collectible through DC. So ultimately, Mr. Mayor, very quickly, I'll just review the recommendations. It's that the report be received, that it be deemed no further public meetings are required with respect to the 2022 DC update study and bylaw, that the study dated May 25, 22 be approved, and that the updated capital projects set out in Chapter 4 of the Development Charges Update Study be approved. And furthermore, that Bylaw 2022-062, being an amendment to the Development Charges Bylaw, be approved. I am willing and happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor, and I see Daryl Abs has turned his camera on, so we'd be pleased to provide any assistance if required.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hillman. Any questions or comments on the report delivered by Mr. Hillman? Pretty straightforward. All right, recommendation moved by Councillor Houston and supported by Councillor Jobin. No further questions or comments. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Then we'll move to the 3AA or 3A or 2AA. Okay. All right. I think Zora is here. Okay.
Good evening. Further to Brian's report, there were two changes to the Development Charges Act with respect to the collection of development charges. Section 26.1 of the Act allows the developers the option of deferring DC payments by making payments in installments beginning at occupancy. Rental and institutional developments can defer payments over 5 years with 6 annual payments. Nonprofit housing can defer over 20 years with 21 annual installments. Section 26.2 allows developers to lock in or freeze the DC rates at an earlier stage in the development process than previously, at either the site plan or the zoning bylaw application date. The building permit must be issued within 2 years to maintain those frozen rates. Both of these revisions will have an adverse effect on DC revenues and increase the staff time required to administer these charges. The legislation allows municipalities to charge interest on both deferred and frozen development charges. Administration recommends an interest rate of the prime lending rate plus 2% as set out in the new policy, which implements sections 26.1 and 26.2 of the Development Charges Act. Administration is requesting that council receive this report and approve the development charge interest rate policy.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? I guess the only question I have, does this cover our administrative costs? I mean, especially on nonprofits and so forth, like 21 years, that's a long time. And then my other question would be, if you recall the charges that we used to charge on bingo license. I know I might be going a little offside here, but between ministries, they decided that one was a tax and one was a charge, and you know what's what's happened certainly with that, with a major lawsuit. So this is strictly, we have the right. It's not a tax, it's a charge, and so if that's okay, then I'll defer to my first question. Does this cover our administrative costs?
I think we won't really know the full financial impact of this change legislation and of the policy, you know, until we have a little bit of experience in administering these charges. So, you know, we will be tracking definitely the staff time involved in administering these deferrals and the rate freezes. And, you know, if we feel that the interest rate that we're charging is insufficient, we definitely will report back to council.
Yeah, because I think what you need to do is almost like another bucket, or realistically setting up a new receivable in the ledger, you know, in order for us to maintain that. So depending on how much development, and you know as well as I do, regardless, everybody's going to want to defer it. Only.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think there's only specific circumstances, as explained by Zora, under which they can defer. It's not universal, but those specific ones are going to be significant.
Okay, hopefully won't change. It's okay. No further questions or comments. Then on the report, moved by Councilor Tonio, supported by Councilor Petrie. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. So we'll go back to 2B, Development Services, our DS 2022-37 6-month permit report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And also, I'm just looking on this. Peter Valori is here, and he turns his camera on, if that's possible. You'll see, there he is. Just before introducing this report, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to formally introduce to council in this public setting Peter. Peter is the chief building official, the new manager of building services. He comes to the town with significant experience in Sarnia and Kingsville with prior work in the field of construction, but he was most recently the chief building official in Kingsville, and we view it as quite an opportunity to have had Peter join us. He's joining me this evening at this meeting. Some of the things we're reporting on are just a little bit before his time. We're just crossing over. So but I thought it was a good time to introduce Peter and welcome him on behalf, certainly of the Development Services Division, to the town and introduce him to council. So with that, I will do a quick review here of the permit report. So these are the first 6 months of 2022, as compared to the prior year, 2021, which had been one of the best years I think we've had here in Tecumseh for some time. So there is some stark differences in the first 6 months from 22 to 21. So when we look at the construction value, you can see that the value reported was 10 million on permits, which was down significantly, 44 million from the 6 months last year. But one of the drivers there, the two very large residential buildings that came in for permits at the beginning of 21, and Briette Manor, which is a fairly substantial overhaul of that. Well, not even an overhaul, it's a complete new building, and ultimately tearing down of the existing and a further expansion. So those tend to throw the revenue numbers off quite a bit. When you look at the number of permits, you'll see that from a number of permits perspective, They're very similar, 148 to 157 for the first 6 months of the last couple of years. And then permit types. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, there's only 5 new single unit dwellings, no multi-units over the same period. Last year, there were 9 and 2 multi-residential, which I was speaking to the large apartments, which included themselves a number of units in them. Ultimately, what we're seeing for the balance of the year is we still are anticipating North Shore School to be a significant permit review and revenue generator, and additional multi-unit residential units, and in fact, some industrial permits have just recently been issued. So we think going into the last half of the year, things will pick up from that perspective. Financial implications, Mr. Mayor, certainly the revenue is down 25% of the total budgeted. But again, one of the things we did want to make note for council is that although last year significant revenue or permits were issued, those are complex, large buildings, and of course the inspection services spill over into this year, and in fact some will go into next year as well. So lots of things happening in the building services area. Ultimately, we are seeking that this report be received by council, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, I'm just wondering to Mr. Hillman, would it be a benefit, noting that 2021 is a bit of an outliner, you know, maybe in future reports, at least to note maybe a 5-year running average or something of that type, you know, because right away when we look at 2022, you know, it's certainly probably there's concerns or things are brought forth, but comparing it to 2021, you know, it's being an outliner 2021, not really as fair. I'm just wondering if you feel that something of that nature may benefit the report, and those people in the public who review this, you know, it may sit a bit better with them, noting that discrepancy or difference. Thank you.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Excellent point. Thank you. And in fact, when we were pulling this together, and I know the council can appreciate, we went through a significant staffing and continue to have some issues because of some conditions that we faced with staffing shortages in the building division. When Peter came on and we were just getting these numbers pulled together, that was one of the first things Peter indicated as a preference. Peter, feel free to add to that because it really is what helps you see the reality of what we're facing historically, and because that's the reality of what any forecasting will do, or any historical analysis. You can't just look at small segments. So as time permits and we get our footing here with our new team, we'll be looking at that becoming more of the norm, and I think it's a very good point to be made. So we would agree. Thank you.
Yes, I would also like to add that through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor. Yeah, the 5-year average is the best way to determine the outcomes. Construction typically and historically has gone on 5-year highs and 5-year lows. It is the preferred way to look at that. Those short turnaround periods could really be a roller coaster ride.
Any further questions or sorry, comments? I think it shows as well in 21 or 2021 where we had a lot of infill projects. So from what I understand, Mr. Hillman, the pipeline looks good. I mean, obviously we've got, I think coming shortly is the Victoria School project, which is, I don't know, 50 units or 55, maybe plus units there and so forth, but also an indication of the strength of the infill has been really good. And so I think with our strategic plan, what we've done, and especially when we've identified our areas like the Manning Road corridor, as well as development in the hamlet and others, the importance and of those lands as we get closer. And so the parade to Queen's Park is part of it in terms of, especially on the servicing side of that, I think. And I think once that is in play, I think we're going to be extremely busy in the building department because of our location and the investment right on our doorstep. So there's going to be a pent up demand in the community. And as soon as we can get those areas in play, we're going to see quite a change. And so with that, Mr. Hillman, I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to welcome Peter, you know, to the team. And so we're looking forward to seeing more of you and bringing a lot more of those reports forward. And we're, you know, now that the ranks are beefed up a little bit and so forth, we're certainly looking forward to working much closer with you and certainly the rest of your group in the very near future. So with that, on behalf of all of us around the table here, welcome to Team Tecumseh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do look forward to working with council and the mayor's office. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve as your chief building official. And I'm really excited about the development of our municipality and working with the community. Thank you.
All right. All right. Can I have a motion to receive the report as presented? Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Tonio, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next, we'll move on to the Industrial Community Improvement Plan. The results from the public meeting and our final recommendation come forward. So, Mr. Hillman.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. We have a fairly detailed report, and of course, with it is the actual draft Industrial Community Improvement Plan dated August 9th. I'll go over in a high level, hopefully relatively quickly, our covering report. We have with us this evening Rory Batch, and I believe Teresa O'Neill is here as well, both from Dillon, who were leaders on the Dillon team in bringing this development forward, along with input, as you will see later in the report, from administration and outside legal counsel and others. So quick background, Dillon was retained by the municipality to prepare a community improvement plan for industrial purposes. Not unlike the Tecumseh Main Street CIP, the intention of the plan is to focus on strategically incentivizing development. In this case, industrial development in alignment with federal and provincial incentive programs, something you will hear me say a few times and that one would see in the actual CIP document over and over again in order to generate broad economic development in the town and across the region. We did develop the plan with regard to Section 28 of the Planning Act, which is a section of the Planning Act that specifically addresses issues around community improvement plans, what the expectations of the province are, and what the tool makes available and the legislation makes available to the municipality for community improvement and general incentivization. And the document is attached for council's review. And it very much is a document that is driven to incentivize industrial development of particular scale and size, quite significant. And it's meant to align with Ontario's current drive, along with the federal government, to attract new industrial and manufacturing investment across the country, across the province, in a very competitive global environment. Dillon had done research, as we reviewed with council at the public meeting, on best practices. There was engagement with stakeholders from Invest Windsor Essex, industry organizations and leaders, the public and public agencies. And ultimately, there was a PowerPoint provided to council at the May 10th meeting, which summarized the findings of those as well. The public meeting was held on June 7th, and the purpose of this report is to review the comments received at the June 7th public meeting, summarize the key details of the draft plan, and recommend to council its adoption. 2 comments were received, Mr. Mayor, at the public meeting. One was from Invest Windsor Essex, which was full support for the draft industrial CIP. And one was from James Sylvester Developments. They had supported the industrial CIP, but suggested that the qualifying criteria be amended to allow smaller scale industrial development proposals to have access to the financial incentive programs. Administrations reviewed this along with the consultants and Dillon Consulting, and we believe that the changes requested are not in keeping with the fundamental purpose of the industrial CIP, which is to attract new major industrial investment, development, and employment opportunities to the town, and that they are in alignment with provincial and federal industrial development initiatives. Accordingly, no changes are proposed in terms of the area meant to be benefiting from the industrial CIP. The document was provided to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs as a requirement of Section 28 of the Planning Act for comments, for review and comment. No concerns have been identified by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. And just very quickly, Mr. Mayor, the key details of the draft industrial CIP, I'll just review them at a high level here. The target industries are fundamentally two. One are automotive industries, which align with the provincial desire to attract and maintain the manufacturing sector of the provincial economy. The size criteria are summarized in just a few moments. And large-scale industries, providing for more flexibility to account for an evolving economic condition over time. So with that being said, there are 3 financial incentive programs that are proposed. One is a tax increment equivalent rebate program. Council will recall something similar had been in place in the Tecumseh Road Main Street CIP. The proposal here is that it will provide an annual tax increment rebate equivalent to up to 50% of the increase in the municipal portion of the property tax after the completion of an eligible project for up to 10 years. Secondly, planning and building permit fee rebate program. That's a rebate proposed to be up to 90% of the fees for any Planning Act and Ontario Building Code applications associated with eligible projects. And finally, a third, which is a development charges rebate program, and that's to provide a grant of up to 100% of the town's development charges paid for an eligible project. The eligibility requirements are detailed in the background report, and some of the general requirements we'll review very quickly for council. But it is very important to note, and we really did want to emphasize this for council, that the draft industrial CIP establishes that for each program, the town may establish a maximum total rebate to be paid based on negotiated terms per application, property, and project. And such agreements would be subject to council approval. These would not be agreements that are dealt with similar to site plan being the case now. So these would be coming to council. And the important thing is to understand that the scope and scale of each one of these could be slightly nuanced and different. So we want to evaluate them on their merits and make a recommendation to council as to the scope and scale of the program availability, recognizing the CIP sets ceilings for each of those programs. Very quickly, eligibility and program requirements established are set out quite clearly in the draft CIP, industrial CIP. One is that there would be types of uses using a MPACS automotive assembly plants or automotive parts manufacturing plant assessment methodology. And it basically is looking at developments, manufacturing developments that are in the range of 1.5 million square feet. So you can tell by that number, these are substantial developments. A second would be an MPAC large and special purpose assessment methodology, separate from the 2 just listed, and they would have a minimum floor area in the range of 1 million square feet, again, significant. Another would be a industrial use as set out in the zoning bylaw, having a minimum of 500,000 square feet and with a minimum employee density of 30 full-time equivalent employees per net hectare. And finally, there would be a targeted economic sector that's included in MPAC's large and special purpose property assessment or any other tool that's pre-approved by the town of Tecumseh. The point being for all of these are substantial developments, and these are similar to other industrial CIPs that we've seen throughout the province of Ontario. Some of the key criteria over and above the limitations on scope and scale of development are that the proposed development is to receive significant provincial and or federal industrial development incentives. These are developments that we would anticipate have a strong relationship to provincial economic development programs, and again would be going after very substantial investments at the global scale. They are subject, the programs, to appropriate budget allocation by council on the recommendation of town administration. The applicant would be required to enter a grant agreement with the town that will specify all the terms, the conditions, the duration, and default provisions for any granting program. The town may discontinue any of the programs at any time, but if there's a signed agreement and it has allocated funds, those would be completed through to completion. And properties may only receive incentives through any given program one time during the life of the industrial CIP, subject to alternative considerations for a phased project, which is possible given the scale of the developments that are being spoken to. And we would just acknowledge that administration will review the programs of the industrial CIP on regular intervals to ensure the intent and project objectives are being met. Mr. Mayor, finally, in our summation, it's that the industrial CIP is very much aligned strategically with provincial and federal economic development initiatives and provides the town with an additional tool to promote large-scale industrial development. Financial implications, Mr. Mayor, I would just note that the draft CIP outlines financial incentives that will require review and commitment from the council. The amount of funding allocation for the CIP programs will be determined through future budget allocations by council based on recommendations of town administration. And ultimately, Mr. Mayor, the recommendation is that this report I've just reviewed in summary be received, and that bylaw number 2022-065 being a bylaw to adopt the Tecumseh Industrial Community Improvement Plan in accordance with section 28 be adopted. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And as I said, Rory and Teresa are here as well from Dylan if there's any additional input or insight required. Thank you for that opportunity, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hillman. Any questions or comments on the report? Go ahead, Councillor Jobin.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Brian, so if we can discontinue financial incentives at any time, why wouldn't we just include the smaller scale industry? If we have the power to disclude or change, why don't we just have them inclusive? Or can we have the option to make them inclusive at some point then in this program?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that with community improvement plans, there's always an option to make modifications to the document as you proceed. I think one of the major drivers on this community improvement plan is that it's reflecting on the fact that our industrial sector actually has progressed quite with great vigor, I would say. And it has some natural inherent attributes that attract the investment we've seen over the years throughout the town. And the desire wasn't really to allow for incentivizing something that's already working. The idea behind this industrial community improvement plan is to incentivize at a scale that brings us into a league that's in relationship with provincial initiatives and federal initiatives. And those are the types of development that that we're seeing competed for across the province. So, you know, I think it's the idea is to stay very focused on the scope and scale of development, and to recognize that the other types of smaller scale development seems to be proceeding in the absence of incentives. And this is going after something that is of quite a much more significant scale. Certainly can always monitor the program to see if there's opportunities for expansion. And just to be clear, the reason I was mentioning council can cancel the plan at any time, which is really quite common with any type of program, it was to indicate that although the scope and scale of this is quite significant, you're not locked into it. It's not a forever story. Once you sign agreements with successful applicants, those need to be fulfilled. The obligations need to be fulfilled. But these types of plans can have an end date as determined by council. So I hope that helps to address that issue.
Supplementary. Thank you, through you. Okay, I appreciate your response, but I still feel like then so we'll just monitor the program, and let's say in the event that we aren't getting the big fish, we would maybe modify the document to support the little fish. Is that something, does that make sense to everybody here?
I will attempt an answer there. I think you're quite spot on. The intent is to, as Brian said, attract a new kind of fish, I suppose, to use your analogy, Councillor, to the community. And, you know, we'll report out on our progress to council and seek direction depending on how successful we are and other directions that other levels of government also move into, so that we stay current with this type of programming.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Brian. You know, my comments, you know, at a high level, the program looks very fair and reasonable, and you know, I realize that we have to put a plan in place to compete because there are other areas that have similar plans out there. So this is a tool in the toolbox. And if I recall, I think when we went through our early iterations of feedback, the program was for 1.5 million square feet and up for all of the big fish, as Councillor Jobin has mentioned. But I do like that we do have some criteria in there for, you know, smaller investments. And I really don't know what 1.5 million square feet is, right? But I Googled to try to find, you know, what around in Windsor would be of similar size. And Devonshire Mall is just over 1 million square feet. So, you know, at least we have a sort of reference of the size of facility that, you know, we would be, you know, trying to attract. So I just, you know, wanted to share that with the group because, you know, what is 1 million square feet to me? I mean, I don't know, but Devonshire Mall is just about that. So at least we have a little bit of reference of, you know, the size that we're looking at. So, you know, hopefully, you know, this, as I mentioned, it's a tool in the toolbox, and it will kind of take us to that next level and compete in that arena. So I look forward to, you know, moving it when appropriate.
All right, thank you, Councillor Houston. Any further questions? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Onhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, I guess to kind of follow on that lines, maybe to Peter and Christine and Brian, you know, I appreciate the eligibility, and I do agree that it seems that it's kind of been relaxed on some points. And, you know, a title's a title, would be assessed using MPAC's automotive assembly plants. It could be considered an industrial use. So, of course, there is always interpretation on that. But I think the reality is, I mean, if someone's going to come in and build an automotive assembly plant, most likely it'll be something 1 point something million square foot. And I'm assuming that, you know, the consultants and the town administration, we've somewhat been mindful of that. You know, to give you an idea, a quick calculation, if you assume things are squares, you know, about that 1.5 million square feet is over 6 acres of land that the floor space would take, which is significant. But that 500,000 goes down to about 3 acres, so quite a bit smaller. You know, I just want to make sure that the consultants, the town, we've kind of looked at the suitability of these definitions and the sizes that are allocated for that, and somewhat looked at it for the sense of attracting opportunities while recognizing we don't want to lower the floor too low, but yet, you know, make it attractive. We'd just like to hear from either the consultants or town administration, Brian, yourself. You know, are you comfortable with that and those numbers that I've kind of indicated?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor.
Just on a point of order at this stage here. Go ahead, Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Brian, I just wanted to get the ball rolling on the discussion. So yeah, recognizing what you've said, I think our principal, one of our principal objectives here was to try to align our programs with the provincial and federal incentives that are currently being offered through their large-scale strategies. And so this was our first foray into that, and similar to the explanation provided through to Councillor Jobin, our intention is to kind of monitor the success of that and see where that takes us before we modify it. But those types of, and I'll defer to the technical experts, but those types of categories and classifications are ones that we can be definitive about who would qualify, to put it that way. Thank you. Brian, go ahead if you wanted to add on.
Yes, thank you for you, Mr. Mayor, and that's absolutely correct in all regards. I you know, there was, I guess the only thing I would add is there was considerable time spent on this, and I'll ask Rory to maybe speak to this, because he did a lot of the work in relationship to looking at these numbers and confirming that in fact they are reflective of past industrial conditions that have happened in the province and the scale of development that has happened in the past, and some of the things that we're seeing happening globally. So with that, I would just say, yes, administratively, we're comfortable. We will continue to monitor, and just ask Rory maybe to speak to you know, some of the research and how we arrived at some of this.
Thank you, Brian, and good evening to council. We had looked at a variety of major industrial developments, recognizing the strategic position that Ontario has in the global economy as it relates to automotive manufacturing. That is a highlight of this industrial CIP, even though the industrial CIP does afford opportunities for other major industries to choose the town of Tecumseh. But to stay on the subject matter of automotive, the most recent announcement in regards to the big push for battery electric vehicles and the transformation of the automotive economy was in Loyalist Township in mid-July. That development is $1.5 billion of investment and is a 350-acre site, so about 100 and some odd hectares. So this is the scale of investment that we are seeing happen through this major transformation globally, and we want Tecumseh to be ready for it. And the key that I think is really important is when we are having the conversations with these types of major investors, and Tecumseh says, we have a financial incentive package, and they look at this material, they see themselves reflected in the financial incentives. They're like, oh, Tecumseh is definitely thinking about wanting to do business with us. We are big, we are significant, and that is where their head is as well. And that is a very important strategic message to send out to the global marketplace.
Any further questions or comments? I'll refer back to you, Councillor Houston. You're prepared to move the report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Houston, support. Councillor Petrie. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item D. DS 2022-39, request for deviation from fence bylaw 2003-57 for 4880 Walker Road. And I'll call upon the director to summarize the report and bring forward a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we go to attachment, I think 1, it should just help set the geography here a little bit. Lot Holdings owns a I'm not sure. I think it's page 92 of the agenda. There we go. So just it's a piece of property at 4880 Walker Road, and it's just abutting. You can see Highway 3 to the north. Walker Road is on the west side, and 2 separate main buildings are on the property. And the owner is proposing a fenced-in enclosure, and the proposed fence that is the subject of this report is proposed to be about 175 feet wide. If we go to attachment 2, please. And 400 feet long, and is proposed to be 7 feet high. The bylaw, fence bylaw for the town currently establishes when in the front of the building, the front yard, it is to have a maximum height of 4 feet. And so you can see delineated there, the area in yellow would have to be 4 feet. The area in green would be allowed to be at 7. Pardon me. To accommodate the proposed tenant that this owner, Mr. Lott, has, which I believe Mr. Lott is in our Zoom meeting right now, if there's any specific questions. They have requested that 7-foot height, and it's the tenant is Sunbelt Rentals, new to the town. And 4 feet would not provide adequate security and places the business at risk for theft of a range of items that are included on the equipment that's put there in the vehicles, such as control boxes and ladders, fuel from a fuel tank, and batteries from vehicles and equipment. And that's been their experience in the past. So the fence bylaw does establish the 4-foot height in the front yard, as I've indicated. And they are seeking permission from council to go to a higher height, which the bylaw does contemplate. And we've had a few of these types of requests come to council before. The enclosure would provide for the owner improved security measures at this location. and reduce the risk of theft for the area. And it really goes to the principle of the eyes on the street. And we see some similar development to this along this corridor. And if you were to travel to other industrial areas as well. We have attended the subject property, some of our staff, to gain a better understanding of the request, along with the location of the fence and so on. Administration has no concerns with the variance requested and recommends that a height of 7 feet be permitted for that portion outlined in yellow. And so the report specifically, Mr. Mayor, seeks to have council receive the report and that the deviation from the bylaw to permit the installation of the fence in the front yard of Unit B of 4880 Walker with a maximum height of 7 feet be approved. And I believe Mr. Lott may be able to present specific questions as well. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Tonio.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hillman, just a question on the sight lines. If I was pulling out of that parking lot, obviously this yellow line where the fence will be, I'm just want to make sure that it's not going to affect the sight lines of people, transport trucks pulling out onto Walker Road there. It doesn't look like it. Looks like there's quite an easement, about 8-10 feet there before the fence. So I just want to make sure that the sight lines are there for vehicles. That's all.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things to observe. One, you're quite right. There is an easement on the, I need to think here, on the east side. So the part that's fronting this property, right on the east side of Walker Road, and you recall there's a trail there that the municipality has, and I think some infrastructure. And then the lot itself has a considerable distance back to the fence, and there's actually a taper on the proposal. So from a, sightline perspective, we don't see any issues in relation to entering or leaving the site onto Walker.
All right, any further questions? Go ahead, Councilor Petrie.
Through your worship, Mr. Hillman, it might be in a report, I just haven't seen it. Is this a chain link fence or a solid wood fence?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. A good question, Councilor Petrie. Chain link.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any further questions or comments? Oh, Councilor Altenhoff. I guess I gotta lean towards the left.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, and I apologize if I just missed something here. Should this be vetted through, or has it gone through the Committee of Adjustments? And sorry.
I just asked that question.
Okay.
Leaned over.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's a great question.
Please, to administration, if there's reasons or timing that required it to become before council, that's fine. I just was kind of curious that maybe this was dealt with from the Committee of Adjustments, but thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, very good question. And we don't have a lot of these. So the way the bylaw is structured, it actually calls for a council consideration on this matter. And it's not to the Committee of Adjustment. So I was speaking to the CAO today about a few things, and this would be a bylaw that I think we would put on the list of just doing some revisions to and updates. And there's a number of matters that can be dealt with, one of which is just procedurally, how do we deal with these types of variances? So I would say on behalf of our team, we would take note of that question and look to, in the building services area, refine this bylaw, update it, and give some consideration at that point.
I totally agree. I really, because I was asking the same question, and it's happened before because we had an issue on, if you recall, Brighton Road in Old Tecumseh, and on a fence, which was reasonable ask, and so maybe that's we need a little bit of polishing on that particular bylaw, and that should be. But anyway, we'll wait patiently when the report comes before us on dealing with that. Any further questions, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Honor. That's my concern in terms of precedent setting with making a decision like this, because you may have others that see this and say, well, I want one too, and for security reasons. And that's all I see here in terms of prospective tenant. So, I don't know maybe if the owner's here, if he can maybe elaborate in terms of the prospective tenant. I think it's Sunbelt Rentals. Is it a lease that's going to be a long-term lease? And in terms of that, is time of essence that it needs council approval this evening. So I'm not sure if the delegate is here to respond or not.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't actually, as we're sitting here, see the name on the screen. But what I can communicate, that what has been communicated to us is that there is considerable time pressure, and that the investment is of a significant nature and for beyond a 5-year period at least. And quite frankly, you know, we've had this discussion about the notion of precedent setting and so on. And I think as we've looked through this and some others similar to this in the industrial area that have come forward, we've come to realize that to the point of the conversation we were just having, the bylaw is probably a little bit unresponsive to the conditions that exist in industrial areas in terms of optimizing the use of a site and what one might expect to see in those areas. So we certainly are quite comfortable recommending this to council, and our understanding is that the investment is imminent, subject to, and the use commencing once we resolve this issue.
All right, thank you.
Because there is a business on the same side, just south of there, with chain link, and it's higher than 6 feet. It's over it's 7 feet, and it's underground specialist. If you look around the perimeter of their property, and they have a huge gate and that, and so I don't think this would be precedent. You know, if it was in a backyard somewhere in the community, I'd say, yeah, we've got an issue. But this is an industrial park, and I think for security reasons, and you know, when we have had some issues, you know, security-wise and B&Es in that area and so forth. So I do support the recommendation by certainly administration. But I think this is why I think the policy needs to be polished up, in particular, defining those commercial and industrial sites and versus, you know, residential and so forth, because it seems like all of those are just kind of blended into one policy, and it should be maybe looked at, you know, a little bit differently. Councillor Jobin.
Thank you, and through you, and just to touch on that as well, talking about polishing up the policy, we just talked about incentive programs for drawing into our industrial, and we have an existing business and family structure there. I'm sorry, a structure there of how they're operating as a community there already. And I think that, like Sunbelt Canada here, they're quite a large business, and they sought us out. They sought our industrial park out, and Lot Holdings wants them to be here in our municipality. And I think that just adhering to this variance is just a very simple thing that we can do. And it's in the industrial, right in the heart of it. It's not really conflicting with any sight lines or anything like that. So I am prepared to move and support this recommendation as it's read. Thank you.
Okay, hold that thought. And then I'll just ask if there's any further questions or comments on the report. If not, then I'll go. Councillor Jobin, you're prepared to move. Do I have support? Councillor Altenhoff, any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to financial services. We dealt with 3A. So we'll go to 3B, taxes receivable. So I'll call upon our director to summarize report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. So this report is provided to council for information purposes. It provides a mid-year update on the status of taxes receivable and collection procedures. So at this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our new Deputy Treasurer and Manager Revenue. So that's Vanessa Dedalt to council. Vanessa started with the town late June and joins us from the private sector, where she has senior level experience with finance, financial reporting, and auditing. And she's been a welcome addition to our department and corporation in the 6 weeks or so that she's been with us. So Vanessa has authored this report. So this is a report that we typically bring to council mid-year every year with the odd exception. But I'll say that Vanessa has authored this report, and she's taken an opportunity to put her stamp on it. So at this point, I will turn the stage over to Vanessa to provide some additional commentary. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So before you start, Vanessa, I just want to formally welcome you to our team, and on behalf of all of us at around the table here, welcome to Tecumseh, and we're looking forward to building a close relationship with yourself and your team. And budget is coming not too far from now, and so we'll be looking at yourself and your group, and when the time comes to deliver the 2023 budget with us. So welcome to our team.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the Tecumseh team and to bring some of my expertise and insights to the finance team and just be here as your deputy treasurer. So with that, the purpose of the report in front of you is to provide council with an understanding of the health of our taxes receivable at our mid-year point. So we focus on two key metrics as at June 30th, where we are and where we're trending in the past few years. And by doing this, we can gather some insights into the health and sustainability of the municipality. So the first indicator that we look at is commonly referred to as the level of tax arrears, and that's your total taxes receivable as a percentage of your total taxes levied. So here we're looking to see that this number is not too high, it's not growing unexpectedly, really because a high level of outstanding taxes can reflect inability of our residents to pay their taxes or problems with our tax collection process. And this can create cash flow issues for the municipality and result in us having to increase taxes down the road to fund these uncollectible taxes. So we want to try to avoid that. So that's why we're looking at this metric. The chart on the top of the second page of the report shows our level of tax arrears at 25.9% at June 30th. 26.3% last year at that time. And if you look at there, you'll see that's fairly consistent over the last 5 to 6 years. So overall, it's a really good news story here in that our property tax collection has continued to remain really strong despite all of the uncertainties that we've had with COVID-19. So no concerns to highlight to council at this time there. The second indicator that we look at is tax arrears as a percentage of taxes receivable. So this indicator is revealing the degree of aging that we have within our tax receivable balance. A high percentage would suggest that we have a large proportion of our receivables that are old, and that could signal collection risk. So from the report, you can see that our tax arrears as a percentage of taxes receivable measured at 8.9%, which is just over 1% favorable from the prior year. So again, nothing significant here, no concerns to highlight. And the last item to just bring to the attention of council this evening is just the number of tax arrears certificate registrations that we have on the go. So the chart on the third page shows the number of properties that we have started the process of registration in a given year. Currently, we have 5 properties that are undergo in the process, 3 of which we have started earlier this year, and 2 are outstanding registrations from 2021. As noted in the report, those 2 are eligible to be advertised for a tax sale later this year, provided the owner does not redeem their property in the interim. So with that, we're recommending that the report be received for information.
Okay, thank you very much, Vanessa. Questions? No, move report. Deputy Mayor Bichetti moves the report. Support Councillor Altenhoff. No further questions or comments. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. All right, move on to our legislative and clerk services, LCS 2022-29, council conferences for 2023. You have the report before you, members of council, and it's in accordance with our town's travel policy number 14 and professional development policy number 73.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. Tonight we have two reports from Legislative Services regarding council conferences and council meetings for 2023. In this report on council conferences for 2023, we have listed the conferences which typically have been attended by the members in prior years. The list assists members in future planning as well as the preparation for the 2023 council meeting schedule. Tonight, the motion recommended is as follows: that the members of council be authorized to attend the following conferences scheduled to be held in 2023 in accordance to the town's travel policy number 14 and professional development policy number 43. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions or comments? All right, motion on the report. Moved by Councilor Jobin, supported Councilor Houston. On the report, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to LCS 22-28 council meetings in 2023.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, the following report is the consideration in regards to the 2023 council meeting dates. Given the scheduling of some conferences attended by council and administration, as well as the dates of certain holidays, the following motion is recommended: that the following regular council meeting dates in 2023 be canceled. Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, August 22nd, 2023, and December 26th, 2023, and that the notice of the regular council meeting dates be posted on the town's website and linked to the social media pages, Facebook and Twitter.
All right. Councilor's pleasure. Move Councilor Houston, support Councilor Petrie. No further questions or comments. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Move on to Public Works Engineering Services, PWES 2022-30 Union Water Supply System at Windsor Commission, water supply redundancy. So I'll call upon the director to summarize the report and bring forward his recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the report before you does have a recommendation for the report to be received for information purposes. I'll try to go through and provide a high-level summary. Dave, if you could perhaps put on attachment number 1 for me there. So the Union Water Supply System is owned by Kingsville, Essex, Lakeshore, and Leamington. It serves about 65,000 residents. It's depicted here in attachment 1 to the report. So you can see a small portion of Lakeshore and a pretty good portion of Essex as well. And it does touch the town of Tecumseh boundary at the southeast location. NWIN is the accredited water system operator for the Windsor Utilities Commission and supplies water to Windsor, LaSalle, and Tecumseh. And attachment number 2 depicts their service area. Both Union Water and NWIN boards engaged a consultant to review alternative shared solutions to address potential threats to the drinking water system and to reduce the risk of water supply shortages in the event of an emergency. A number of alternatives were reviewed by the boards in 2021, with the recommended solution being a central reservoir and pump station at the estimated cost of $120 million. This will ensure a supply of potable water above the minimum pressure requirements set out by the MECP to priority consumers such as healthcare providers, residential users, and fire supply. Both boards gave approval to completing a conceptual design with final detailed design and environmental assessment to follow. The project timeline identifies the preferred solution to be constructed by 2026. A copy of the joint board report for both Union Water and WUC, dated June 15th of this year, has been appended to this report as attachment 3. And again, we wanted to bring this forward to council for information purposes, and administration will continue to update council as the project progresses. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bartnick. Are there any questions from members of council? Councillor Jobin.
Yes, and thank you through your deputy mayor. Phil, what does this mean for the rural community that is not connected still to service water?
Well, I think the intent was to have kind of a central reservoir between the two systems. We have not been made aware of kind of a potential location. I believe that's what the conceptual design will tell us. I know there has been a number of meetings in camera with respect to these to the two boards on this study, but more recently the report that's attachment number 3 to the council report this evening. That was the first public report that has been brought forward. So we'll continue to monitor the progress of the study, and we'll definitely have to be engaged with WUC as well, because I believe some of their feeder mains or transmission mains will have to be brought through the town of Tecumseh, and so we'll have to determine, is it just a kind of a fly through or a bypass, or is there interconnectivity there where we can both benefit from the infrastructure that's being installed?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Phil. Phil, I know we just recently kind of renegotiated with WUC our water agreement. Does our agreement contemplate any sort of large-scale investment in the Windsor, system, and if so, what is that?
Yeah, it's very through you, your worship, to Councillor Houston. So very good question. It's something that will definitely have to be top of mind as we continue through this progress. The agreement spells out specifically, what could be cost shared and what cannot. And there are mechanisms in the, mediated agreement there just recently that identifies, if there is some disagreement, that there are, a third-party process that we can go through to determine, what is applicable, what is not. I think historically those have been specific to the quality of the water itself. And I think this is more so going to address the quantity or perhaps some of the pressures in that area. So, if there is an opportunity to improve the service within the town of Tecumseh, whether it be a standalone option that Tecumseh would have to move forward with, or if there's partnering with WUC as part of their infrastructure, I think that's something that we're going to have to review and then bring back to council and see how that would impact or fall in place with the existing agreements.
Thank you.
It's ironic that this is, coming forward now. And I remember, if you recall, Deputy Mayor Bichetti, when we were, 2003, 2002, when we were looking at either expanding our water service, our own with the Riverside Plan, as you recall, the idea was brought forward of one large regional water distribution between the county and the city, and somewhere obviously out in the county to have two redundancies, two sources in case something happened, certainly in the water. And it's not a new concept. If you look at the city of London, it's a great example of that. They get water from Lake Huron and area and Lake Erie. And so and then there's 14 jurisdictions between them, I think 14 at least, that share in a water commission between all of them. So it's certainly not a new concept, but it's really, when you think of it, if the county continues to grow the way it's growing and so forth, and we've got to look at the water supply as well. I mean, especially with blue-green algae blooms and so forth. And we know what happened in Toledo. So there's a whole host of things that I think makes a whole lot of sense. And this is where I think the upper levels of government, the province, and certainly federal government would come to realize that is it more efficient? Is it better suited? Is it because quality of water, I think, is a critical component to all of us. We can certainly look at other jurisdictions, and they're really worried about certainly their water. So I think it's in my opinion, it's not a discussion that was that's just coming up to the table. It's something that's almost 20 years ago that was brought up, certainly at the time. And powers that be, I guess the political will wasn't there at that time, but I think it is time to have certainly a more open discussion on supply. So at this stage, Mr. Bartnick, we were just looking to receive the report as presented. Councillor Tonio and certainly Councillor Jobin, thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Move on to Public Works Environmental Services 2022-34 or DMAF. The 2020 intake, that's the ancillaries consulting services for the Scully and St. Mark's pumping stations tender award. So I'll call on our director to bring his report forward and his recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in October of 2020, the town was advised that our DMAF funding application was approved for a project totaling $26.75 million, with the town receiving $10.7 million in funding. The project included construction of a new consolidated Scully and St. Mark's pumping station and a Riverside Drive trunk storm sewer, the decommissioning of the existing St. Mark's storm pumping station, and the construction of a new Peter J. Cecile pump station. On February of 2021, Council did approve the allocation of $16.05 million of the total project costs that would be borne by the town to fund the town's portion of the total project through a combination of life cycle, stormwater reserves, and debt. Since that time, Dillon Consulting, the town's consultant, is currently completing the detailed design of what we refer to as phase one, which is the Scully and St. Mark's replacement pump station, and they're on schedule for an early 2023 construction tender. Through the detailed design process, the town's consultant has identified additional scope items that were not initially contemplated at the outset of the pump station design. So a request for proposal was prepared for the additional items, which included excess soils and geotechnical services, shore protection wall design, archaeological works, and Indigenous consultation. The RFP was advertised on June 10th earlier this year with a closing date of June 30th. Only one bid was received in response to the RFP from Wood Canada Limited. This project was tendered in a fair and transparent manner in accordance with the DMAF agreement that's between Canada and the town of Tecumseh. The tendering process for the RFP also conformed to the town's procurement bylaw and policy. It is recommended that the town award this RFP to Wood Canada Limited, given their prior experience and good standing within the industry. And the two recommendations from the report that council award the ancillary consulting services for the Scully and St. Mark's pump station project in the amount of $226,005, excluding HST, to Wood Canada Limited as an irregular result under the town of Tecumseh purchasing policy and Schedule A of Bylaw 2021-60. And that Bylaw 2022-067 to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with Wood Canada Limited be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bartnick. On a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Piketty, supported by Councillor Ottenhoff. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right. Next is the PWES 2022-37 Riverside Drive multi-use trail tender results update And that's on a supplementary item, members of council. And so I'll call upon our director to summarize the report and bring forward his recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as council may recall, council received a report just a few weeks ago on July 26th with the recommendation to reject the single tender that we received for the Riverside Drive multi-use trail project and to negotiate with Piracon Enterprise for a lower cost. Also identified in that report were 3 options moving forward, being number 1, to negotiate with the single bidder. Number 2 was to request an extension to the Canadian Community Revitalization Fund program, or the CCRF, as we reference. And number 3, undertake direct negotiations with another contractor if negotiations fail with the single bidder. So I wanted to highlight kind of our progress over the last 2 weeks. So with respect to the CCRF program extension, so administration had, excuse me, had some discussions with CCRF staff who indicated that there is not a program extension to announce to date. The town also sent a letter from the mayor's office to the minister requesting a program extension. To date, there has not been a formal announcement on a program extension, and the works will need to be completed within the original program timelines, which has an end date of March 31st, 2023. Administration then entered into negotiations with the single bidder, Piracon Enterprises Incorporated, starting immediately after the last council meeting on July 26th. So those negotiations did result in Piracon reducing their tender bid. The original bid was $2,755,751, and they reduced it to $2,391,961. So a reduction of just shy of $364,000, or equivalent to a 13.2% decrease. Also important to note that their bid, that Piracon's negotiated bid does contain a contingency of $175,000, as well as provisional items of $357,000. Piracon identified that they could start construction in early September once locates are obtained, which currently is a 4 to 6 week wait time, and that the start of construction and completion of construction would coincide with the current CCRF program timelines. Administration recommends council accept the negotiated bid due to the following points. Piracon negotiated in good faith and did reduce their bid by just shy of $364,000, or equivalent to about 13.2%. Although there is a sense that the CCRF program will be extended, a formal announcement has not been made to date. There is a risk in retendering this fall for construction to commence in the spring of next year. The tenders may still be within the same price range of the negotiated bid. And this is mainly due to the feedback that we heard from other contractors who did not bid on the project, citing one, the project size and scope, as well as the high profile nature of the project. And lastly, postponing construction into 2023 will impact administration's capacity for managing and administering other capital projects, including those related to facilitating growth and development. So getting into the financials of the report, which I believe is page 6 of administration's report. So we did have an original budget of just shy of 1.9 million. The updated project costs are roughly about 3.1 million. So there was an increase in costs, even with the reduction that Piracon did provide. So there was an increase of $1,263,716. But it's also notable is that we We do have the CCRF grant valued at $750,000. And there is a contingency and provisional items that are built in into that 3.1 million, and that is roughly around 582,000. Also, I wanted to note the cost spent to date on the project. So we have spent upwards of about 377,000, and that does not include staff time to administer the project, which is estimated at about 25% of an FTE during this detailed design phase more recently. And that money does include, the works completed on the preliminary design, public consultation, meetings and presentations to council, detailed designs, surveys, geotechnical, tender documents, and utility relocations, which are just being finalized as we speak. With respect to the recommendations of the report, so it is recommended that the report PWES 2022-36 be received, and that the negotiated tender for the Riverside Drive multi-use trail in the amount of $2,391,961, excluding HST, be awarded to Piricon Enterprises Incorporated. And further, that bylaw number 2022-053 to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with Piricon Enterprises Incorporated be adopted. And furthermore, that funding allocations reflecting a total budget requirement of $3,131,116 with a $1,263,716 increase to the original allocation be accommodated as follows. And Dave, if you could go to page 1 of the report. Thank you. So there are increases to there's 3 reserve funds. So we do have an infrastructure reserve. So there is an increase to the infrastructure reserve up to which now increases that allocation just over 2.5 million. There is an increase to the water main reserve fund, which is just shy of 29,000. And there's also an increase to the storm sewer life cycle reserve, just over 600,000. That concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bartnick. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Petrie.
Through you, Your Worship, Phil, our hats off to you for the good work on bringing this to us with that reduction. My only question is, during your negotiations with the tender, is there a difference between what will be done on the completed project from the lower rate as opposed to the initial first one? Anything that you have seen or we will see?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Petrie, very good question. So the scope of work has not changed. So it's merely a negotiation of the price. So it is our intent to still proceed with that same quality and the same scope of the work.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Houston, Deputy Mayor McKetty.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, I have some concerns just with the overall nature of the increase, not even for this project, but projects overall, moving forward. I know that because this is a significant increase over what we've had or what we projected, I think it's the realities of what we're facing today because of, inflation and cost pressures, but also, I guess, the higher profile nature of this project. But I don't want to put, into jeopardy the 750,000 that we have from the upper levels of government. So I'm prepared to, move the recommendation, but I have some concerns overall. But with the high profile nature of this project and all of the work and commitment that we've done around the horseshoe here, and also staff, that, I do want to say thank you to everyone who was involved in the negotiation. I do believe that we've done the best we can, to pull down the price, but for all the work that we have done today, I'm not prepared to say, no, we can't do it, because I don't want to put into jeopardy the grant and everything that we've done now. So I know that we've committed to the residents that, this is something that we are going to do. Unfortunately, it is going to come at a much higher cost than what we anticipated. But I do believe, we have the capacity within reserves, and we've done a lot of hard work to put us in a position to react to, this type of situation. So, hats off again to you, Mr. Bartnick, for negotiating. And I also recognize that we do have some contingencies in there, which hopefully will work out in our favor. They are there if we do need them. But I am prepared to move the report when required. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Houston. One of the things that I'd like to bring forward as well is all the delays in this project, as well as cost us dollars. And the other thing I want to also let council know as well is that monies have been expended. I think the movement of the utilities have been done. You've seen the costs that are there, and plus all of the consultant and then engineering done today. Those are expended dollars. And so thank you for certainly your comments. And so there's probably $300,000 to $400,000 that's already been spent, in this project. So you're bang on in terms of why we are where we are, and COVID has not been kind. And obviously the amount of work that's out there, big projects, a lot of commitment from a lot of the big players, as we would call, say, the big 6 or 7 construction firms out there. So there's no question. But I echo your comments to certainly administration on this one. Deputy Mayor. Oh, okay. You're so small on that screen for a big guy. I can't see you, but anyway, you're gonna have to wait.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add a few additional comments to Councillor Houston and to the rest of council as well, which you may find helpful. So I have been speaking to the City of Windsor as well as the county. They have a number of big projects that have been tendered out this year. And the city themselves, they're seeing a significant increase in tender costs and project costs over the last 10 to 12 months. It's been quite an anomaly this year when tendering. And so the city's even saying, they're seeing on average 30 to 40% increases on a lot of their projects. The town has, this is our third larger project that we did tender out this year, if council may recall. The first was the Tecumseh Road Storm Sewer. So that one, we were fortunate enough to have 3 bidders close on that. It was somewhat competitive. It was still over budget by about 18%. But again, there was commitments, I guess, made by the school board, the County of Essex. There was some cost sharing there as well as an OSIF grant. So we did proceed forward with that project. The second one we tendered out was the Les Bronx Via Rail improvement project. Unfortunately, we only received one single tender, and it was significantly over budget. It was about 54% over budget. And so we thought with the flexibility in that grant program, council made the decision to reject that tender and re-tender this fall for construction to commence early 2023. So when we come to the Riverside Drive Trail, we are over budget, but the CCRF grant program has not formally been extended as of to date. So there is that risk in losing that $750,000 grant if we don't move forward. So I thought I'd add those additional comments just to give a little bit of context of what we're seeing with some of our other projects, as well as some of our neighbors with some of their tenders and project costs as well.
All right, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Jobin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Phil, for the report this evening. As you know, this has been a long project, I think 3-4 years, one of the longest ones in terms of time expended by either the consultants or administration. It's over and above what is expected of a project of this size. The fact that we were able to get a grant, I think, solidifies the fact that this is a great initiative in terms of promoting healthy, active living, promoting, safety along that stretch, and in terms of trails, it's well received by the community at large. There were concerns raised by the neighbors that are affected along the property, along Riverside Trail there. And as a council, we took a step back, a pause, and we did a thorough review. I also want to thank part of your team, Mr. Cameron Hedges, who's done a phenomenal job with the residents in terms of addressing concerns, trying to mitigate some of the issues that affected each of the properties. And, lo and behold, that was very important to this council. There was that detailed conversation and dialogue for them to be able to be heard. And a lot of those residents were satisfied in terms of how the town was able to mitigate. So moving forward, and it's right in the report, by us not doing anything, we expended over $300,000-$400,000 up to this point. I totally support the fact that we need to move forward in terms of the final concept design that has been done. And my question in terms of where we're at with the original concept in terms of meeting with the residents back when we asked administration to do that, would you be able to have a ballpark figure of what amount of money was added to the project to help mitigate those concerns overall? I know right now it's a $2.4 million project, but in terms of scope, in terms of to help out moving forward with this project.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Very good question, Deputy Mayor. Might be a little challenging at the moment to kind of put a figure to that. We may have to, kind of sift through some of the figures and email some of that information to council after this meeting.
Okay, well, my point is that we didn't downsize. Like I think Councillor Petrie was asked the question. We didn't downsize the scope of the project. In fact, we kept it the same, or we tried to improve it. And I hope going through this Riverside Trail project that when we do move forward in the next year, looking at another trail south of the expressway along L'Esperance Road, that there's a lot of things that we learned along this process, and that project there, that trail that's being proposed from County Road 22 to County Road 42 will not be as long and laborious in terms of work-wise that this one took, and that we'll be able to learn from this project so that the one that we have in the future will be more ease in terms of getting that implemented. So thank you. And again, I support the recommendation to move forward with this project this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any question, comment? Yes, Councillor Jobin, and then Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just comments really. I get the anomaly of the increases of what's happening in the construction business. But to touch on Joe's words about regarding the residents and the process we've gone through with them, and also the funds already allocated, my comment is more so to the contractor, because now at this stage and with this new price tag, I have a now newer, higher expectation of their service that they're going to provide to us and to those residents that are directly affected by this. So my expectation is that this project will be far more seamless at this price tag now than what I would have expected at the latter. I hope that everyone can understand what I'm getting at when I'm saying that, and that they do realize that these residents, both sides of the street, are affected by this, and that they should be managed in this project with a lot of respect, and how this project goes through with their crew on the streets. So I just want to convey that. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Hoffman and Councilor Tonio.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. First off, I want to extend my appreciation to administration as well as the potential contractor for undergoing negotiations to reduce costs. I appreciate that. But I'm not going to be naive, and I don't think any of us should be around here either. When you take away approximately $400,000 from almost $2 million, less than $2 million, something's going to give. I'm sorry. And if you don't think it's going to give, I'd be surprised. So I leave that to you when you make your decision. But I find it hard to believe that the quality of work and the scope of the project will reduce when that magnitude of a reduction occurs. You know, maybe it's awesome negotiations, and my hat's off to administrations if that's what it's been, but I'm not warm and fuzzy about that. I'm not, and I won't be. So I'll leave it as that one point. And a final statement on this. Everyone knows around this table, as well as the residents, that I perhaps I've certainly been excited right from the start, because I will be honest with you, and I welcome any of you to look at my cycling computer. I can't recall the amount of kilometers, but every time I go cycling, I take that route. And the interesting aspect is the perspective I have on it. I see the gray space on the north side, I see the green space on the south side, and I see Riverside Drive. And I see all those lumps and bumps that are on Riverside Drive Road. And I will probably mount an accelerometer to my bike so that we can get an appreciation perhaps of some of the levels of acceleration that our body's subjected to. But I can tell you, I can see such an incredible difference in the quality of the road between that and what of our neighboring municipalities have implemented. The road is a road, and it's meant to be a road for vehicles. Cyclists, road cyclists share with the road, and unfortunately, they also share those lumps and bumps. So I default back to, again, what I've always said, that I don't believe the best option has been selected for this trail. And I leave it for these reasons. Again, that gray space on the north side is going to remain there, and we will be extracting approximately 1 football field worth of green space on the south side. All right, I want everyone to be aware of that and recognize that. That most likely will never come back. It certainly could, but there's costs with that. To both the east and west neighboring municipalities, albeit in the future on the west side, appropriate road cycling trails and pedestrian trails are implemented. And thus you will see a disjoint trail in the Tecumseh region. The sidewalk on the north side of Riverside Drive has most likely not seen any improvements for at least 2 to 3 decades. I remember running that when I was in my 20s, and I recall the routes that have brought up that sidewalk. And I think the grander vision or the grander option would allow for that to be resolved. The project is 170% over budget, which we all see, as well as there's additional costs that have already been implemented to kind of push this forward. And I appreciate that. But now we see our point of, sadly having to live with this significant increase in cost. And finally, if the project is high profile, which is the word that has been used around this table, I really believe that we should select that option that was identified as the utopia by the consultant, albeit a big job and a big project, but it would see improvements on all fronts. The trail system, Riverside Drive Road, as well as the current sidewalk and other infrastructure. I recognize that's perhaps a bit of a grander vision, but I see it as again, basically an incredible beautification of our town. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Tonio.
Thank you, and to you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've all discussed the overage on this point, and Mr. Bartnick explained a lot of it to us of why this happened. It seems like an industry standard here. My question is, in the future, I'm hoping that we can predict these overages, these quotes that are coming to us that are coming in 30–40% more than what we thought it was supposed to be. Are we hoping we're going in the future as we put these tenders out that we are planning for that, and this kind of scenario doesn't occur over and over again? And I'm sure administration is considering those problems. So that's my only point is, let's watch in the future all these overages before we put our budget forward and asking. I know it's difficult with the industry and all that type of stuff. That's my only comment on this one. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Madam CEO.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to close by indicating that this has been a very challenging project from beginning to this point. I appreciate everyone's comments, and the desire to see this through to completion is very great on the part of staff as well, and to see it through to completion successfully. I think we've demonstrated a commitment to this project on all levels particularly within the Public Works Environmental Services, Engineering Services Department, but also throughout the organization. So it's certainly our intention not to disappoint and to make sure that we get a quality project and continue with quality service to the residents along that strip, but also provide a high quality resource for the entire town to enjoy with linkages to the trails on both sides of the community. I think in response to Councillor Tonio's comments specifically, there's an awful lot of uncertainty, economic uncertainty. People are concerned about staring down the barrel of a recession. The interest rates are in flux. Gas prices are in flux. So that's the environment that we're all trying to navigate right now. And so we'll do our best to try to understand the complexities of that and anticipate costs a little closer to in the future. But I think that in very short periods of time, as we've seen over this year, conditions have changed dramatically. And so it's been difficult to keep up with those kinds of predictions. So here we are today, and we're asking your indulgence to see this project through and give us the direction to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. All right, any further questions or comments at this stage here? Move by Councillor Houston, supported by Deputy Mayor Bichetti. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? The motion carries. Okay, unfinished business. Oh. I guess I want to advance it. I want to advance everything here. Let's get going. Okay, sorry, Madam Clerk, bylaws. And we have a few.
There are 9 bylaws for consideration this evening. Starting off at bylaw number 62 is the development charges bylaw. Bylaw number 63 is the official plan amendment number 4 for the CIP policies. Bylaw number 64 is the community improvement project area town-wide bylaw. Bylaw number 65 is the industrial community improvement plan. Bylaw number 66 is the ICIP green stream for the transfer payment agreement. Bylaw number 67 is the Scully and St. Mark's pumping station tender award. Bylaw number 53 is the Riverside multi-use drive pathway and tender award. Bylaw number 68 is the transit advertising agreement, and bylaw number 69 is appointments. And we're asking for first and second readings, and if appropriate, third and final.
All right. Move Councillor Houston, 3 readings. Support Councillor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And a third and final reading, Deputy Mayor Bichetti and Councillor Petrie. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. Councillor Jobin, please.
Thank you. Through you, I have 3 items, mostly for communication to share with council. One being, we have some residents on the south corridor affected by a drain project initiated by the municipality of LaSalle. And just to convey to you some of the concerns by those residents, and our drainage department is aware and have managed our affected residents, was LaSalle had submitted their notice of their roadside drainage meeting on, let's say the date was July 27th at 10 a.m. Residents received those notices July 27th in the evening, so weren't able to attend that roadside drainage meeting. Our drainage department is already requesting a deferral and a renewal of a roadside meeting because they already had some other issues there. So that's just to communicate with you an issue that occurred there. Secondly, a review of our bylaw in reference to what constitutes a pet and how one would manage a pet. I've come across an issue with residents who have ducks as pets and are refusing to contain them. And since we don't have a bylaw to enforce that, neighboring residents are having to have police come to mitigate property where these ducks should belong or not, therefore wasting police time. So we need to give our bylaw enforcement department the tools and to nip this in the butt. And this doesn't even just have to be ducks, because this now opens to rabbits, snakes. What we need to give our enforcement something to go in and say, this is yours, it stays there. If you can't have it stay there, we are going to remove it, or you have to contain it. And then thirdly, I do have a message to convey, since council did support the 7-foot allowance to the fence on behalf of Sunbelt Rentals of Canada and Lot and Lot Holdings. Nicholas Lott conveyed his appreciation and gratitude to council administration for them supporting this initiative, and that Sunbelt has hopefully a 10-year commitment to maintaining its business in our industrial park. So on behalf of them, they've conveyed their thanks and gratitude. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Jobin. New business, yes, go ahead, Councillor Petrie, then Councillor Tonio.
Mine is also with regards to bylaws. I've been contacted by several people in residents and as much as Councillor Tonio on property standards and mostly in the residential areas. The people know the bylaws very well, and when the inspection, or if we have done an inspection, they feel that there's not enough teeth in our bylaws to do with property standards and taking care of your property. And I think there's nothing more frustrating for a person is to take care of your house and your residence and look over and see rats, see 4-foot grass, and homes in this. I think we need to either tighten up our bylaws or more stringent on them, because I realize City Works is the way to do it, but we still get complaints that once people go out, they feel the bylaws aren't being enforced. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate your observations, Councillor Petrie. We do bylaw enforcement by complaint and sort of on demand as opposed to proactive, because we don't have the staff resources to do the other type of model. And I think that we've done a laudable job with the staff that we've had and really sort of picked up our game in the last couple of years. I'll have a conversation with the bylaw division and just see what their insights are and how we might respond to you before we take any further action.
Councillor Tonio.
Thank you, sir. I got 2 topics. The first one, On Friday, the 12th of August from 4 to 8, there'll be a pasta dinner. I'll be volunteering my cooking services at the Legion. So if anybody would like to attend or residents like to attend, the Legion on Les Bronze here needs some money, and this would be a good way to help them raise some money. The second issue is I've received some complaints of the Shawnee Tecumseh Road area. And as we grow and develop in businesses and residences in that area, the parking is becoming an issue. So I know we're going to be doing some online on-street parking, which would help alleviate that. But just in the future, if we can maybe start thinking of some contingencies of sharing some lots with private owners, maybe like we've had in the past down at the other end, maybe down at this end. I know there's some parking lots behind St. Cecile's off of Shawnee there. Maybe if we ever need to, we could possibly have some kind of agreement with that owner, maybe. Just to alleviate some of the parking. It seems like they're parking on Shawnee Road in front of the residences, and that's the issue. And then going to the businesses to eat or drink or things like that. And it's becoming a concern. So I just want to get ahead of the game on it. So thank you.
Madam CEO.
Thank you, and through to the councillor. As you know, we do have a line painting project that is scheduled, there have been some delays due to the availability of the contractor and the supplies that are required to undertake that project. But there will be a significant number of spaces added on Tecumseh Road, and that's at the direction of this council. I think it would behoove us to see how that plays out before we investigate any further parking requirements, and then also look at perhaps regulatory measures if the problem on Shawnee persists once those additional parking spaces are available on Tecumseh Road.
I see Mr. Bartnick hands up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just further to Madam CAO's comments. So we have been in consultation with the line painting contractor. He has advised that they're aiming for getting the works completed by end of August. So we're holding his feet to the fire on that and trying to get specific dates for when he can come down. We also expressed the importance of the project and kind of how long we've been waiting for this as well. I have pulled the report from last year when the decision was made. So we are looking at implementing on-street parking from Shawnee all the way to Bedell, which would accommodate an additional 64 on-street parking spots. And then there could be a kind of a second interim phase where we look at implementing on-street parking from Shawnee westerly over to Southfield as well. But we thought we would take the first phase being from Shawnee to Bedell, kind of more in the main core there with businesses. So hopefully, within the next month, we'll have 64 additional parking spots. So.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Bartnick and Madam CAO. That's exactly my thoughts too, is play this out and then see if we need to get more parking after that. So thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oops, thank you. Actually, Phil, while you're available, if you could provide an update on the municipal lot there beside the BIA as well, please.
Thank you, through your worship, to council. So there has been a number of smaller improvements on the BIA, on the parking lot just adjacent to the BIA. One of the more intensive endeavors was trying to provide a better level of service on the stormwater and reconnection of the catch basin lead. It's my understanding that in the next couple of days, the asphalting subcontractor will be out there to provide some repairs to that parking lot. So hopefully in the next little while, I think you'll notice some improvements not only to drainage, there was some lighting there as well. We're looking at a new fence along the eastern limit, some tree trimming, and some improvements to the bus shelter as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything further? Go ahead, Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to pass along a thank you to Mr. Anthony and the entire Parks crew. The McAuliffe soccer and sport season finished on Saturday. The on-street parking, absolute hit. It's very well used, and the program that McAuliffe has developed has grown year over year, and I think this has been their biggest year. I had multiple thank yous and congratulations to all of the park staff throughout the year this year. So I just wanted to, again, pass along an appreciation that I have heard from residents and that I've heard from the McAuliffe Park group. You know, it was a great year. Saturday, as we all know how brutally humid it was, the park was packed. The kids all played soccer, but the splash pad was an absolute hit. So, you know, it's
the adults would like it too.
Yep, very well used, and you know, just a huge asset for us in that region. So I just wanted to pass that along.
All right, thank you. Anything further? Then motion to confirm the proceeding of this meeting this evening. Councillor Tonio, Councillor Petrie, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Then are any notices of motion? Hearing none. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. We'll have a 6 p.m. quarter revision. That's the South Talbot and 12th line drain. And that'll be, and then we'll conclude with our 7 o'clock regular council meeting. With no further business, then adjournment's in order. Councillor Tonio, Councillor Altenhoff, thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. This meeting is now adjourned.